Hi, this is my video review for Warrior Heroes Legends. Fortune favors the bold. And you're going to have to be very bold to understand the rules for this game, because this is one of the worst role-playing games rules book I have read in my life. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you what I purchased this game. I purchased it as a PDF file in Drive-Thru RPG, and here's the cover. As you can see, the cover art shows like an angelic warrior. It looks pretty high fantasy, but most of the theme in the game is pretty much your standard fantasy fare of elves and dwarves and human warriors and magicians, wizards, etc. Well, about the game caught my attention because I read somewhere that you could play it as a solo game or as a cooperative role-playing game, and as you well know, there are very few RPGs that can be played as a solo experience effectively, or as a co-op experience as well. Well, let's get started with the basics of the book. The book is a bit disappointing in it has no hyperlinks. I'm talking about the PDF version, remember? It has no hyperlinks or any way to navigate easily and smoothly around it. You have to scroll up and down as you read it. First, in the book, they give you an introduction about the traditional turn sequence of I go, you go, that I go first, you go, then you go after me, I go again, you go after me as well. And that gets a little bit repetitive or boring in the author's opinion. So he talks about how this game uses a reaction system. Everything that you do in this game creates a response or reaction. If you charge the enemy, that enemy may run away from you, or may attack you with a ranged attack, or maybe the enemy will charge at you as well. Everything has a sort of artificial intelligence feel, and that of course means that there are a lot of tables in this game. So this game gets a bit crunchy because you have to check tables for almost every action that you take, and you have very little control over your forces. In this role-playing game, you play as a general. An interesting thing is that this game is not listed as an RPG in RPG Geek. It's listed as a board game, and I understand that because this game looks like a war game disguised as an RPG, or an RPG disguised as a war game. To play it, you need your normal D6 dice. Any normal type of D6 dice will do. And you need some kind of measuring device, measuring tape, and terrain, and any kind of miniatures that you have. The author also explains that you can use any of your old miniatures to play this game, even if they are huge monsters or normal sized humans and elves, dwarves, etc. And you need of course a surface to play on. Well, first of all, you role play as a sort of general or leader. You control a hero that is called a star, and that star has a group of grunts. They represent the hirelings or followers. And of course the star or the hero that you control is a lot stronger, and you have more control over him than over all of the other hirelings or grunts. Because with every action that you take with your hero, the grunts depend on what you do. For example, if you decide to charge an enemy, you can't really be sure that your hirelings will attack as well. Maybe some of them will fail their morality test, or they will flee from the enemy. And so it's a game of a lot of chance. There are some tactical choices and some strategic plans as well, but you have to always expect that something may go wrong, that something may not go as planned because of the random results generated with the tables. And you have your standard races of halflings, dwarves, humans, as I said, and you have your alignments that is basically good, evil, and neutral. And it's interesting because depending on your alignment, the creatures that you will find along the way may join your forces, or may attack you, or maybe they're just indifferent. The races are interesting too, because besides the normal races that I mentioned, you also have demons, feral vampires, that is vampires that are just in it for the blood, but you also have the vampire counts that are more sophisticated, aristocratic vampires. You have ghouls, giants, goblins, men, werewolves, were-rats. You can play as a very unusual character if you want. You could play as maybe a giant warrior, or maybe a goblin caster. And each of the races can choose a different class. The classes are casters, which are your basic magic users, healers, missile fighters, that is somebody that attacks with a bow or a thrown weapon, nobles, which are balanced fighters, soldiers that are more defensive and strategic, and warriors that are very much like berserks and unpredictable. Even if you play a warrior in your group or as a main hero, there is a small chance that it may just break out of the main force and attack the enemy on its own. You also have different types of weapons and armor that may add defensive properties, different types of damage or attacks. In this game, everything is resolved with a pair of d6s or more, depending on what type of action you carry out. And that's part of the big confusion in the book, because sometimes it tells you that you need to pass the dice, or count successes in the dice, or check the possibilities of the dice, add and subtract the dice, count only half of the d6. There are many variations of just one single d6, and that's the paradox of that. The system is really simple in the sense that you only need a few d6s to play it, but you need to check the different concepts. So when you use those dice, because sometimes you're playing and you tell the other player, yes, I passed the check, and the other player is like, but did you get a success or did you pass the dice? And you sometimes you get confused, like, wait a minute, did I pass the dice or did I get a success? I don't know anymore. So that's pretty confusing. I think this game would benefit of a simpler, if they simplified that part of the system. And something that really makes the book difficult to read is that there are a lot of things that repeat itself. They repeat constantly concepts, but most of all procedures. For example, there is a little phrase that says, you want to know how to do this, here's how we do it. And the author repeats, here's how we do it, like 1,000 times throughout the book. You want to know how to apply the damage of a sword, here's how we do it. You want to know how to move, here's how we do it. You want to flee from the enemy, here's how we do it. And it drives you crazy just reading so many times, here's how we do it. The author, it shows that the author is aware that the rules are confusing, or not as well structured as they should be. And he constantly refers that you stop and with each chapter and read what you have just went through and try to piece things together. He also offers you his Yahoo Group's website, so you can ask questions about anything that confuses you. But when I first read that, yeah, with each chapter there is a mark that says stop, and this is what you have to do to learn this chapter. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it would be kind of like the board game Earth Reborn, which probably has the best instructions booklet I have read in my life, because it's a step-by-step tutorial that by the end of it you become a complete master of the game, at least in understanding the rules. But this game, first, the book shows you a lot of confusing concepts. Those concepts create questions, and you are waiting for those questions to be answered, but it's only after several pages that you may find the answer, and maybe you already forgot about your original question by then. So the book needs a lot of work, could benefit of a lot of editing and good writing, because it confuses the player. Later on in the book, they tell you about how to form your own war band to play the game. They tell you all about the rules to be used in combat, like movement, ranged combat, shooting, casting spells, casting offensive spells, healing spells. All of that is carried out by rolling d6s and checking tables. It's always roll the dice and check a table, roll the dice and check a table, and check statistics as well. So it's a very crunchy game, and you may need a big table space to have all the rules there, or different tables, or maybe just a good PDF or a computer handy, so you can check all the tables at the same time that you are playing, because this is not a game that you can casually play just at the kitchen table. This is you need to really study the rules and maybe make some notes about them, because they are pretty confusing sometimes. You have a lot of rules for creating magic items or generating magic items, dungeon levels, different types of landscape and terrain. You have rules for riding, and you have rules for carrying out different types of skill challenges. And then you have a very little small primer on how to play the game as a solo game, or as a co-op game, or even as a competitive game. As a solo game, I think this once you understand the rules and you have thousands of notes and tables at hand ready to answer your questions as you play the game, it's a decent game, and it's actually a pretty good game, but it's very crunchy, and it may take more time than most people are willing to spend on a role-playing game. And as a co-op game, you can also play it. It's also pretty it's pretty viable, or it works better than other games as a co-op experience, because each player can play a small war band fighting a campaign throughout the map. And you can play it as a competitive experience too, as a competitive role-playing game. But this is kind of a paradox, because you need to play a competitive game with somebody that is not competitive, because otherwise you're going to spend hours and hours arguing about the rules and who got the shot, who had line of sight to an enemy, etc. You know, all the Warhammer players probably know what I'm talking about. So, and you have rules for campaigns and for managing food, armors, weapons, resources, and money, and also random events. Sometimes your home may get burglarized, or maybe you bought a round of drinks and this raised the morale of your troops. But the game itself is very, very, very heavy on tables. The tables, I think, are the thing that mostly hinders an otherwise smooth and fun experience. Maybe they could simplify them a lot more. And because I know what they were trying to do, they were trying to give depth to the game. The author was trying to add a lot of tactical maneuvers and a bit more depth to the overall system, but it sometimes make it a very cumbersome experience. And the character races and classes have enough uniqueness and different abilities and powers to make them different between one another, but some races are very similar. But that's just a nitpick. They're actually pretty well done in the sense that you have variety to play a character. And all the solo aspect of this game is based on the tables, on generating events that happen to you while you are moving through around over a map or inside a dungeon. And of course, you have to generate your own quest. You can't expect the game to generate all the objectives and the plot line of your campaign. You have to say, oh yeah, this time we are fighting the undead lord of the evil swamps, and then you have to arrange the entire rules around that. So there won't be many surprises when speaking about plot, but you will get surprises on the items that you find, on the enemies that you face, on the ones you think are enemies are actually potential allies. So that randomness is there to provide some surprises and replayability for the game. And there are pre-generated runs and different types of NPCs and enemies at the end of the book, and that's always handy, especially for this game that is so heavy on tables and confusing rules. I would recommend this game for those war gamers that want to play an RPG that is heavy on different details and don't mind a bit of confusion and a bit of studying the rules for quite a while. But for somebody who's just getting into RPGs, and for somebody who's looking for a smooth solo experience or co-op experience, I would probably recommend that they stick to Mythic and apply it to their favorite RPGs, because this is a very involved game, a game that will take more than a few days to understand just barely, so you can play a full campaign. I recommend also that you keep a notepad or notebook handy when you are reading the rules, so you can make sense of the rules and create a sort of a checklist or structure of how to carry out a decent campaign, because the rules are all scrambled around and they really don't have a procedure like step 1, create your character, step 2, create a map. No, it's everything just tossed around and you have to make sense of it somehow. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review. I know that it sounds a bit critical and severe, but it's actually a decent game if you give it a chance. Thanks for watching. I'll be glad to read any comments that you have. See you later.